Welcome to Radicards TV on Radicards.com. I'm your host Patrick, and today I have a very special guest. I have Mr. Ryan Cracknell, current hobby editor of Beckett Media, and he runs a sports card blog, TraderCracks.com. And you can find him on Twitter at TraderCracks. Links below. I want to say thank you again, Ryan, for taking this opportunity to sit down with me. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So, are you nervous or excited about this interview?
I'm pretty. I look at his conversations. Yeah. I'm kind of past that. A few years ago, I did an interview with ESPN, which was that one freaked me out, but it also was an icebreaker of sorts.
I followed your career for a while. What got you into writing about sports cards, Ryan?
It kind of started. Well, I guess it started with I collected cards, and I was going to school and university. My first degree was in professional writing, so mainly it was going to be journalism, but I kind of flunked out of that part, so it became more of a creative side. But I kept working at writing. I started a website. My Trader Cracks website goes way back to GeoCities, but that kind of parlayed into I started writing for a Canadian sports card magazine. And then from there, I think I kept blogging for a while, and then I ended up at Cardboard Connection, and now here I am at Beckett.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been, like I said, it's been it's cool to watch how in depth your knowledge goes on cards and just various trading cards. Because I see that you talk on your website at Trader Cracks about a variety of different trading cards. Of all of the subjects, which is your favorite to write about?
Definitely baseball and entertainment. I don't know if I have a preference of one over the other. Baseball, I love baseball, but entertainment stuff, you get so much more variety. I love autographs. That's one of the things that I like to focus on. So there's just some different names, and sometimes there'll be a set that I'm not interested in necessarily, but then one of my favorite actors will be in there. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool.
So tell me, as hobby editor of Beckett Media, can you walk us through a day in your life of what you do for them?
Well, number one, it's just kind of I see my job as covering what's happening in the hobby realm. So if there's a new product announced, I kind of delve into it as much as I can. But that's going with limited information and everything else. If there's, some sort of auction that just happened, I guess a couple weeks ago, a 1952 Mickey Mantle sold for $1 million. That's a pretty big deal. Like, I'm never going to own that. I would say 99.9 of, that's a 1%er, a 1%er of a 1%er card, right, sort of thing. But it's still cool to hear about. So it's covering what's coming up, kind of looking what's ahead. I look at cards too as nostalgia. So I get a kick out of, looking back at something and reflecting on it if I can, if there's time, just stuff like that. I guess there's no real 9 to 5-ness with it. I work from home, so it's kind of get up, check and see what's going on. If there's anything happening in the morning, being on the West Coast, sometimes I'm a little bit behind or a lot behind, but that's okay. Keeping people informed, that's my goal, whether you're a beginning collector or you've been collecting for years, somewhere in between. I can't hit everyone every day. Every article I write isn't for everybody, but I do the best I can. And, it's an internet world. We can click as we choose.
Sure. How many articles do you produce a day?
A day,
on average?
Honestly, it varies. Some days I'll do one, whereas other days I might update like 9 or 10. I kind of look at myself as a curator of information. It varies. I would say on average 3 or 4.
So tell me, Ryan, at what age did you start collecting and what got you into it?
I think, honestly, it was, I had cards growing up. I remember when I was 4 or 5 getting a few packs here and there. Then when I was like 7 and 8, 1985-86 O-Pee-Chee hockey was like the first one that I remember going to the store. I remember going, I don't think in the States, do you guys have Beavers in the States? Like before Cub Scouts? It's like the little version of Cub Scouts.
God, it sounds familiar, but I don't remember. It's been a long time for me.
Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts is what's in the States. So it's like a littler version of that. So my stepdad would pick me up and, we'd stop by the store and I'd spend my 35 cents a pack. But then I took a few years off. I picked up a few packs here and there, but it was all just based on what was at the corner store. Then it was stickers, actually, that got me really excited about collecting. Even to this day, if I see, I don't care what it is. If it's like, I remember buying Frozen a couple years ago because it was like 25 cents a pack. The act of putting stickers in a sticker book for me, it's relaxing. And I enjoy that. But around 1988, 89 is when I really started getting into cards. My mom worked for a corner store distributor, so she brought me, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Fright Flicks. It's like this horror set that had Ghostbusters, Predator, Alien, Nightmare on Elm Street's like all over the set. She brought me some of those, and then some 1989 O-Pee-Chee baseball. She bought me a box of those from work, and from there I never stopped collecting. I went to my high school reunion in the summer, and people knew that I was the card guy still. So that's awesome. It's been, I guess, almost 30 years now that I've been collecting.
Really? Wow. Yeah. So with stickers, now a couple questions. Did you get into Garbage Pail Kids?
Oh, I love Garbage Pail Kids. I've actually, this past weekend, I was lamenting most of the vintage Garbage Pail Kids. I'm pretty much done, except for Series 1. And I'm like adding up in my head how much it's going to cost to finish that off. And it's just one of those long-term. I have tons of sets that I've been working on for 10, 15, 20 years. It doesn't bother me. It's a long game. It's the chase that I enjoy. So love Garbage Pail Kids.
Awesome. I bought them in 1988. I know that they'd already been, 3 years into the production lines, and there were certain ones that were gaining popularity. And now, so many years later, there are certain cards from that first line that are really popular. They're really expensive, and then they're getting them graded and they're flipping them for really higher prices now. So the other question is, are you interested in buying the modern releases of Garbage Pail Kids? Have you been buying any of those?
Up until a couple years ago, yes. The current ones, a lot of my buying now is because I'm based in Canada. Shipping it's like $30, I think, to ship one box of cards up from the States. Our dollar rate is brutal. I remember talking to someone a while ago. They're not allowed to bring Garbage Pail Kids into retail in Canada because of our laws up here, which I found weird because our libel laws are actually a lot less strict than the States. Wow. There have been a lot of them. I wish I had an endless supply of money to buy everything I wanted, but that's why we collect. It's always the joy of wanting something and not being able to have it. So,
going back to stickers, did you get into the FIFA World Cup sticker booklets that are so popular every year? The Panini
I did. The World Cup, I bought a lot of packs of that one. I'm still, I think, 100 short of my set, but that was the last one that I went pretty big into. And then once I was about halfway through, I'm like, oh man, this is going to cost a lot. It sounds cheap when you're like, ooh, $1 a pack.
Right.
But then there's like 400 stickers and you're like, oh, and then doubles hit in. And
I remember that the day they dropped 96 Leaf signatures came out it was the first time that autographs were guaranteed in every pack, and also the first time that lesser known players could have an autographed card, because you remember the signature series of those, the white backs with the bronze,
the
silver, gold medallions, and so it's a big set too. It's like over 200 cards. It's a girthy set. And quite an ambitious feat to put any of those versions together, the bronze obviously being the more common, but still, Jeter's going to be a big one, Thomas is going to be a big one, and there's going to be, other players in there that, like, even Sammy Sosa doesn't sign very often, so his cards...
No, Kirby Puckett, there's a few biggie, and they had the short prints as well. That was a tough set, but I remember that one too. That was a great... Like, I remember the pride of, like, man, I bought a pack of this stuff. It was $15, and I'm a teenager, and I felt like the high roller that day. And then I think I don't even remember who I got. It was sad.
Yeah.
And then Series 2 came out, and I got another pack of that one, and I got a hot pack that had 2 autographs in it. Woo! Yeah, it still didn't. Still one of my favorite sets, though. If I need an autograph of a guy from that era, that's the set that I go to, that I start with if I can. Like, I have Randy Johnson and A-Rod from that set.
Oh, yeah.
And it's simple, it's classy, and it is that first set. So
I know you collect John Jeha. What got you into collecting him?
It was a couple things. Number one, I have this OCD completist side in me where if I get into something, I want to finish it. And I'm like, okay, I want a player just because I think it was when the internet was starting to take off. So all of a sudden things were opened up. I could trade with people everywhere because no one in Canada collects baseball. So I opted for Jaha because he hits home runs. And he has, this is going to sound probably weird, but it's true, and I can guarantee I'm not alone out there. He had a cool name. You know, just it rolls off your tongue. He hits home runs. He's cheap, and I would be able to get like everything if I wanted to, just about. So that's why I started. I think the only non-one of ones that I need, one of them is a checklist for 1997 Topps Marbles.
Oh, yeah.
This test issue set, and he's on there with like Griffey. It basically, if you collect a player from that era, you probably need that checklist, and they cost like $40 a piece. The last, you know, they come up like once every 2 years, and there's 12 guys on the checklist, and it's not just the name, it has the picture. So I have to have it because that's my completist side. The Pinnacle Certified Black, Mirror Black.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was on there for that. I haven't seen one surface. And then in 2000, Topps did the MVP parallel thing. There was like 100 of each, but not everyone had one. So I actually haven't taken the time to look and double check. I suspect he may have been put on the checklist, but didn't happen. I have everything else. I think he was on the cover of a National Geographic, but his back's turned. So I'm still, I don't know. It might be him. It might not be.
It takes a while to put together the whole run, less the proof. Just the run by itself.
Yeah,
is a big feat.
Yeah, no, the Pacific Prism set that they did, that's basically like Tech Now, where it had all the different background things. That was the killer for me. That even to this day, I'm like, ugh, this is, you know, names like Pebbly Drops and whatever else they were. It's like, where did they? But it was Pacific. It's like that was kind of my nostalgia of Pacific is they were crazy, and I like them for it now.
I've always been a big fan of Pacific, and with that set specifically, what makes it so difficult and peculiar is that there was no way to identify the patterns. Like, you didn't know which one was wood grain silver. You didn't know which one was tinsel silver. You know, you had to kind of like through conversations with other collectors and, you know, through the years of just talking about these things with other people, in time you figured it out. You know.
Yeah.
I know that on your site and on mine, I've covered the whole variation guide as well, and just because for my own reference, you know, and I figured other people might want to see it too.
Yeah.
So it's just beneficial to have for me to go like, okay, so that's that one, that's the tinsel silver or whatever it is.
I had to put I put like labels on the back of like the penny sleeves inside the pages so that like when I look back, because I had a post like years ago. And it's still, what's the difference between a tinsel and a whatever else? A Pebbly Drop, I can figure that one out. But even the base one kind of looks like that tinsel one. And
I remember the base card being unchecked in my checklist for so many years because I didn't know what the base card was. And when I finally did I did the checklist on my site, and then I went through my doubles and realized I had a stack of the base cards, and I was like, this has to be the base card. Because I'm not going to have a stack of parallels all, you know, serendipitously acquired through different collections. I'm going to have the base card. Also wanted to talk to you about that 97 Topps Pro Shooters.
Yes.
So that's a peculiar release. So do you have the marble?
I do. Do you want to see it? I actually have it because I can't keep it anywhere.
Let's see
it's in my little supply drawer that's right next to my desk. So here, I'll hold it up to here.
Yeah.
So this is you can see it there.
Yeah.
So that's the front of it where his picture is. And then in the back there, it has the team logo and the number. This is like the weirdest. I didn't even find out about this until I think like a couple years after they'd come out. You know, it was a limited release. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it speculated it was only like in a couple cities. Kind of like the old 50s and 60s where they had all those test issues. This was like going right back to it.
Absolutely.
Do you have the Frank Thomas one?
I acquired the Frank Thomas. Probably seen one or two since then, being sold for more than what I paid. So that they're appreciating. They're extremely rare. I actually saw a pack, an opened pack. Thomas is not featured on the pack, but the pack was being sold as an empty wrapper. Yeah, the checklist card, you're right, is very elusive. What do you like about collecting? What hooks you in?
The number one thing for me is sorting. I love to sort cards, like the stickers with the relaxing bit. Give me a box of like Topps baseball or whatever that comes with a ton of cards, and I will. It'll just kind of relax me and get me going, just putting them in number order. I think that was what originally got me excited. But I remember going to my room every night and just finding different ways to put them in order. Like there'd be the number order, and then you put them in the team, and then even position. There was just so many different ways that you could sort them. I still like the sorting, but at the same time, I'm getting realistic about space. I don't want to keep accumulating large amounts of stuff. I'm more apt now to get that one really nice card every couple months instead of just going and buying random packs or, ordering in those boxes. Now it's just kind of the joy of the chase, I think, is what I enjoy. I like the community a lot. Actually, that's probably number one, is just getting to meet people through online and everything else. That's the coolest thing to me.
You brought up a point of, instead of buying more of just stuff, you buy one thing you like with the same amount of money, and the quantitative piece becomes less relevant, and your focus goes more to the qualitative piece of collecting, which is, I find, that has become more popular with age. As I've gotten older, I've become more focused on the quality of the things that I acquire. Instead of buying a miscellaneous box of random baseball cards, which at one point in my life I would have been super excited to have, these days I'm focusing on, okay, obviously I can't get it all, right?
Yes.
But what I can do is acquire the things I like and be very picky. So when I have a focus, I have control. When I have control, I can save money. And so it doesn't bankrupt me, but I can still enjoy it. So those are big
I think
pieces
we're exactly in the same boat. For me up here, actually, Topps baseball, even in the early 90s, was super exotic. Because I'm in Canada, we had O-Pee-Chee. And O-Pee-Chee was easy to find. So if someone had Topps, it was ooh, this is American. This is different.
That's how we feel about O-Pee-Chee. When I'm at shows and I see O-Pee-Chee base cards, I'm like, ooh, an 86 O-Pee-Chee Kirby Puckett. For $1, I'll take it, because it's not something I see. I think
O-Pee-Chee baseball is the most underappreciated stuff in the hobby. I have the soft spot for 89 because that was, a big year for me. Mm-hmm. And, looking back now, it's got Randy Johnson. So it's okay, that's a good set. And I just like the design of 89 too. I don't know. The bubbly look is nice.
I had that 89 Donruss, 88 Donruss, 88 Score, 88 Topps. And I was organizing those in a little tiny black plastic clamshell box with the lock on the front of it. And I remember organizing all my cards by last name, and I had 2.5 rows of everything in penny sleeves. And I remember being oh, the 89 Topps Canseco card was the one iconic card for me that always takes me back to those memories, was the 89 Topps Jose Canseco. And then the 88 Topps Glavine. Those are Topps cards that take me back to a different time. So tell me, you've been collecting for a while, and, you're a player collector of John Jaha, and I have to ask you, how do you catalog your progress? Do you use anything? Do you handwrite, or do you use a checklist on Excel, Word? What's your thing?
I use a few things, and I'm about to change it, I think. It started out with pen and paper. I've been using a lot of Google Docs for various things. That would probably be my go-to choice now. Or even just a Word document, whatever kind of works. For me, the idea of online is that if I go to the National, or if, I'm at a miracle happens and I'm at a show, I can just pull it up on my phone.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, and that's funny, it's good that you brought up those things about organizing, because it's so important to prevent us from double buying. And, you and I, I'm sure, I know I have bought doubled in the past many times.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just something we do, sometimes intentionally, just because I like the card and it's cheap. So, what are some of your favorite cards in your collection, and why are they some of your favorites?
Most of mine, that come to mind right away, are strictly for personal reasons. They're not worth a ton. One that sticks out in my mind is a 1994 Post-Canada Joe Carter autograph. I got it in a box of cereal. It was the coolest thing. It was, the summer after he hit the home run to win the World Series. And, we had baseball cards still in cereal in the 90s. back in the day.
Yeah.
And this one, the grand prize, like 1 in 2,000 boxes, you could get an autograph.
Really?
And it's airbrushed, it's not licensed, whatever. But it was holy crap! I just got an autograph in 1994, like we were saying. In '96, that wasn't until they became common.
Totally.
In a box of cereal. So that one, I remember calling my mom up at work, and I'm like, Mom, I got the autograph. So that one sticks out, and it's like in this huge honking 2-inch thick holder. I think it's probably, worth $50, if that. He's been he hasn't signed much recently, but there was a time where he was signing quite a lot of stuff. And, to me, that was just the coolest thing, finding something in a box of cereal. Probably my 89 Upper Deck Griffey is another one that comes to mind.
Iconic.
Not because it's the 89 Griffey, but more my mom surprised me and she bought it for me for Christmas. I'm just more proud of my collection as a whole, as opposed to, I look at it as the complete thing versus individual pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Got a Quentin Tarantino autograph from Donruss Americana a few years ago. With my Jaha collection, I can't pick one card that I like more than the others because it's John Jaha. He's not, some designs I'll like more than others.
Yeah.
I have a very extensive Expos collection as well. Like just base cards. I love the original Mars Attack set. It's like the coolest stuff, but it like $25 for a common card beat up. It's like, I don't have many. In fact, I have 2 now, and I just got the one. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'll probably sound a little bit disturbing, but for people who know the history of Mars Attacks, the one where the dog's getting shot, it's one of those cards like when we were talking about Garbage Pail Kids, how some are more valuable than others, even with original Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
There's like 5 or 6 that command a premium over the other ones.
Absolutely.
And, this is one of them.
It reminds me of the one card in the Ted Williams set, in the early 60s Fleer set, where he's signing the contract. And that card was not supposed to really even be in the set because of some contract dispute he was having at the time. That card being the most valuable, obviously, in the run. Are there still some Jayhawk cards you're after that you just can't seem to track down?
The original printing plates with Pinnacle, and I think 1998. It was either 97 or 98. They not only did the fronts, they did the backs as well. But I think it really is only one of ones now, and maybe a couple that I question their existence. Like I have literally not seen them ever. And I looked on eBay for a good 15 years straight every day, multiple times a day, to see if one would show up, and they never did.
A couple of questions. The front and back plates, Pinnacle did that, but I've also seen Pacific do some of those as well over the years. I don't know if the Pacific ones are like pack pulled or if they're backdoor relics. I'm not really sure. I've just acquired some of each. Have you acquired one of ones of Jayhawk already?
I have a couple of them. I know for sure I have one of the Flair Showcase. I can't, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it's one of the 97s, but it might have been a 98.
Yeah.
There was also those Sports Illustrated sets that Fleer did.
Well,
I have a first edition from one of those, and I think I have just one of the Pinnacle plates, and that might be it for me. Like, those were so, like, nowadays, even casually, you're going to find a plate at some point in the year, let alone multiples, even if you're just buying at Walmart or whatever, versus back then, man, it was something else.
Tell me, how do you store your collection? Do you do the binder thing with the pages, or do you do the top loader? What's your thing?
I do a lot of everything. For my Jawhawk collection, 95% of it's in a binder because I like looking at it. I'll pull it out every year or so, and I'll just kind of flip through and look at the designs, how they evolved. The stuff that I really like, most of my expos, I've tried to over the years get into pages. My favorite sets, the stuff that I really want to look at, I'll put into pages as long as it's not super valuable. My one-on-one Jahas, they're going to be in top loaders and magnetics in a box.
Do you collect anything else in sports cards, or anything else outside of sports cards, outside of what we talked about?
Oh, I collect. I think I'm just a natural collector. I'm getting back into 80s toys a little bit, like the stuff that I grew up with and played with, or always wanted but never got. I really like, not the Funko Pops, but here, I'll show you. These are the vinyl idols. They just stopped these. but they remind me of like the California Raisins and all the like
Oh
80s
yeah.
animated guys.
If you weren't collecting what you're collecting, what would you be collecting?
I think I'd be collecting movie props, like
Okay.
original things that are used in making movies and TV shows. I love, like when I see that stuff, that is the coolest thing because it has that same idea as a card where, for me, in its purest form, a card connects to a moment in time. A movie prop can do that even more. There's only a 2-hour time span for most movies, if that. And, that piece of clothing, that jacket, I love E.T. is my favorite movie. And I was just talking to a guy recently who sold like E.T.'s hoodie back a few years ago. And it's like, that's the coolest thing. I went to the Goonies house a couple years ago for their 30th anniversary down in Oregon. And it just got me thinking, I'm like, I should go and buy the E.T. house. That would be the coolest thing. I'd learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons and order pizza and like throw balls into the greenhouse every day. And
Do you have any future plans for your collection? And if so, what are they? So, for example, some people say, I want to build a website, showcase my collection, or I want to organize this mass of cards here, or whatever it is that looks like in the future that how are you going to interact with your collection? Do you have something like that?
yeah, definitely rescanning and showcasing. As weird as a John Jaha collection is, when you mention it to someone, they're always like, "Why him?" and "What do you got?" So I don't necessarily have that. I've scanned them in. It was probably like 15 years ago, so the resolution's really small. But at the end of the day, when you're working around cards all day or writing about them, it kind of drains you. Definitely would like to share more. I think definitely though on my personal website, there's definitely a possibility that I'll put up a section one day of my stuff.
I built a site to showcase my own Frank Thomas collection, but I built it with me in mind in the beginning, and then I realized other people could use it to reference like identification on their own cards, and I was like, well, this could be a good service for other people, so I should just keep going. And then 4.5 years later, I finally finished this thing, and it's all searchable, and it's easy. When I'm at shows, I can use it to show people, hey, I'm looking for a card that looks like this, but it's got the red on it or whatever. So it makes it easy to communicate with people when I'm in negotiations and when I'm at shops and shows and stuff. So, but it is a ton of work.
Oh,
so much work. Major time investment. It truly is, and I can't blame anybody for not wanting to do it on that premise alone, because as a person who's done it, I don't think I'd want to do it again. And I can keep this up over time, but the amount of work that I put into that site, I'm very proud of it, but I got really depressed one year because of how much of work it was, and I actually hired help because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to scan, that's all I want to do, and upload. Somebody else needs to help me with the Photoshop piece of it, so I can totally understand how much goes into that. Ryan, I want to thank you for sitting down with me and talking. I have one last question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I kind of had one of these cheesy but so truthful phrases come out in one of my tweets last week. It was, collect what you love and love what you collect. So, it doesn't matter what it is that you're collecting out there, whether it's cards, comic books or whatever, as long as it's within the law and it's not harming people,
right?
Enjoy it for what it is. Don't let it consume you as well. I can speak from experience, multiple times over everything else. It can become too much, and, the community is great, but you also need to remember that we should have a community outside of our collecting as well, i.e. family. Don't shut them off for it. Even when you're right into a project, take some time away. But just enjoy it and have fun. And, if no one else is collecting what you're collecting, be grateful because it's going to be cheaper for you. And if your team is left out of a set, don't fret. There's, tons of stuff out. That's a very common thing that I read is this product sucks because, this team only has one card or no cards. Well, okay, that's disappointing. But on the flip side, you have one less spot on your want list to chase after. So
there's always something else to buy.
Absolutely. There's always thousands of other things to buy.
That's the one thing when I miss out on a card I like or I want, I'm like, well, dude, there will forever be options. You know,
Yeah.
I'll forever need some other card, and so I as I've gotten older, I've grown to accept that it's okay not to have every single one that you want, and there will always be other ones to acquire going forward. So that's great feedback, and thanks so much, Ryan, for sitting down with me. Really appreciate this time that you've been able to share with us, get a little bit to know what you collect, your background, what got you into it. It's just it was great. It was a great time to talk to you. Thank you.
Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you for watching another episode of Radicards TV on Radicards.com. Thank you again, Ryan Cracknell, for sitting down with me and talking. And until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this video, please subscribe. Enjoy collecting. Thank you.